Hello, I am live now. I was treating this as a simulcast with Facebook, and that was not working. But anyway, this is a video where I'm talking about Ozma of Oz by L. Frank Baum, the third book in the Oz series. I was going to try to do chapter 3 and 4, but the simulcast isn't working, and my son is in there playing with cat, so he's not going to come in and listen. Maybe we'll do chapter 3 and 4 tomorrow. But I have a lot of students who are interested in the hero's journey. I just set up a hero's journey real quick. Hero's journeys are real easy to. There we go. But every once in a while I'll have that become the real popular sort of analytical approach. In case you heard tinkling, that was my dog Maggie. Maggie, come here. She's shaking her collar. For those of you just joining us who have never seen one of the videos, my dogs always make a lot of noise and interrupt my videos. But anyway, here's my other dog, CQ. Hello. Just in case people hear sounds that are weird on the video, I want them to know who's making the sounds. Of course, that's clearly a dog sound. Anyway, so the hero's journey is a really interesting one to take a look at with the Oz series, and I have a lot of students who are always really quite interested in it. But I would say really the value of a scheme like that is recognizing both how the characters fulfill it and how they fail to fulfill it, or how they subvert it, how they defy it. And Ozma of Oz, of the first 3 books, Ozma of Oz is arguably the hardest one to really fit into that scheme. What's up? I'm talking about the hero's journey. I was going to read chapter 3 and 4, but you were in there playing with the cats.
You could have warned me.
We could read chapter 3 and 4 in a second. I was just doing a video on something else. But anyway, this is helpful. This is very helpful. Have you ever heard of the hero's journey?
No.
Well, name a hero. Just who's an interesting hero for you to talk about? I know you're wearing a Gryffindor shirt, so that's an easy one to talk about. Just name a hero, any hero.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. Of course, my favorite hero of all the heroes. So a hero's journey just means these are the 17 steps that the hero goes through. It could be 17. It could be a wide variety of different numbers that they go through. So Doctor Strange, the movie version, is that the one you're thinking of? The Doctor Strange movie follows this pretty easily. If you see the chart, he starts off in an ordinary world. Then he has a call to adventure, but his call to adventure is to meet the Ancient One. Are you bringing out sparklers just randomly? Please don't light up sparklers inside the house while I'm doing a video.
Shall.
Please don't burn down the house while I'm trying to make a video.
I will.
You will. Okay, anyway. So concentrating as best I can, considering the circumstances. So Doctor Strange, I'm trying to explain this to you. Doctor Strange, if you remember in the beginning of the movie, he's in the ordinary world and he has this car crash. And is he very heroic at the beginning of the movie? Do you even remember? You don't remember. Okay. My favorite character, but that's probably the only version you've seen. Okay, you're showing the sparklers randomly. But yeah, I mean, so he's in the ordinary world. He's a surgeon. I'll explain it to you so you don't have to remember. And then he has a car crash, but he's not very heroic at the beginning. He wants to save people in one way. He's a brain surgeon. So part of him wants to save people. So at his core, he is heroic in the sense that he does want to save people's lives, but he has this massive flaw. And his massive flaw is he's very, very arrogant.
What does that mean?
It means he's full of himself. He thinks he's very important. Didn't we see? Oh, self-righteous. We saw that word. Not that long ago. In a description of Ravenclaws. Doctor Strange would be a Ravenclaw, probably. I would imagine. Or a Gryffindor, one or the other. Please don't knock over the table.
Never.
If the viewers at home see the earth quaking, it's because he's shaking the table. That's not helpful. So Dr. Strange then goes to visit the Ancient One to heal his hands. He's very selfish at that point. He's very selfish.
Don't mind me.
At that point, he finds out the world is more magical than he expected it to be. And so he trains. He definitely meets the mentor. That's one of the biggest parts of that story, is him meeting the mentor, and that's the Ancient One. He finds out there's the Dormammu kind of functions as the dragon type of character. You have different versions of this where there's some great monster who's threatening the world. Dormammu sort of functions as that. He has companions like Wong. He meets along the way. And so the whole thrust of the hero's journey story is that you have this very selfish character with the potential to be a great hero who is inspired to be a great hero. So it's a scheme. So this is in hero's journey analysis, this is what people get mixed up. It's a scheme, and you have all these different moments, you have all these different components in the scheme. But the point isn't just that it happens to fulfill all of these. Because Doctor Strange definitely doesn't fulfill all 17 of them. And fulfills them in a different order, and he does lots of different parts in different ways. I'm trying to show the dog. He's already had his cameo. He's had his cameo. You gonna go get the other animals?
No.
You're just gonna get Maggie. But the whole point of the hero's journey, if I can focus, is that it's this journey of a hero becoming a hero. And so what you would look at then is you would say, what is heroic about Doctor Strange? He has this great skill. He's very, very good at things, but does that make him heroic? What do you think? Somebody just being good at something, does that make him heroic?
No.
No. So how about Harry Potter? Can you do the same thing with Harry Potter?
What do you mean?
I mean, can you go through the whole hero's journey with Harry Potter? Is he start off in an ordinary world? What's his ordinary world? In the beginning, Harry, after Hagrid drops him off, is he in an ordinary world? Where does he start off?
In Hogwarts.
Not at the very beginning.
I know. At his parents' house.
Well, his aunt and uncle's house. Yeah, the Dursleys.
Wrong. Parents' house.
His aunt's house.
Parents' house.
Well, I mean, at the very, very beginning, when he's a little baby.
Yes.
He's at his parents. You're right about that.
Yes.
As he grows up, where is he?
At his aunt and uncle's house.
At the Dursleys' house.
I'm hugging a dog.
Yes, you are. And so does he have a call to adventure? So is there a moment where somebody tells him you belong? What's that?
That's nice.
Well, I mean, book one is the easiest one to see. In book one, does he have a call where somebody tells him there's this adventure he needs to go
on? No.
What about getting the letter? Yeah, that's a call to adventure. That's saying you belong in the magical world.
Okay.
Does he have mentors?
What?
Mentors. You know what a mentor is?
No.
Somebody who teaches you something and guides you.
I'm trying to count how many.
There's a lot. So mentor, you can have more than one mentor.
5.
Yeah,
no,
he has a bunch.
6.
He has a bunch of mentors.
6. No, followers or something?
Mentor, people who show him the direction to go in his life and teach him how to do things. I mean, it is a school, so I mean, of course, there's a lot of people teaching him.
8.
There's a lot.
8.
I mean, Dumbledore being the obvious one.
Yes, I counted him too.
Okay.
No, actually, it would be 7 because I was
there's a lot.
Snape.
Yeah, I mean Snape. That's a tricky one, but yeah, I mean I would count Snape as a mentor.
Okay.
I would count him as a mentor. So are there threshold guardians? So is there any moment when he's crossing a threshold? Are there characters guarding a threshold? Do you know what a threshold is? I should have explained that part. Threshold is like when you go from one place to another. You okay? A threshold is when you go from one place to another. So when it's like you're crossing the door, you're crossing a threshold. So when he crosses into, let's say, the Forbidden Forest, are there guardians in the Forbidden Forest?
No.
Yeah, that's kind of a tricky one to work with that one.
Well, maybe.
I mean, the spiders, I was thinking that could kind of work.
What about number 5? When he goes into the lawyer, the like forbidden place in the ministry.
Oh, in the
number
ministry?
5.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of guardian or things blocking his way and stuff like that.
And also number 1.
Yeah, what's that? Is there another? Oh yeah, when Fluffy. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Fluffy. I forgot about Fluffy.
No.
What's that?
Maybe the troll if the
Oh, the troll. Yeah, sort of.
if he wasn't knocked out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the troll was kind of part of keeping him from finding something, so that kind of works.
What about the giant chess game that they set up?
Yeah, I mean, right at the end, you have all these different guardians and these things blocking him. Yeah, I mean, you got a bunch of stuff like that. I mean, what about elixir? Elixir is like a magical object that will bring people back to life, or it will give you something. It'll extend your life. I'm sort of fishing for a particular thing in book 1. There's something that extends your life.
What about Voldemort? There's
a lot of elixirs for Voldemort. Yeah. What does he want in book 1? This is just an obvious one. That's all.
Yeah.
What's the name of the book?
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
There you go, the Sorcerer's Stone. But yeah, I mean,
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, there you go. Sorcerer's Stone is a kind of elixir, but a lot of elixirs don't have to be life-giving things, but that's just commonly what you run across. But anyway, so you can list all of these different things for Harry Potter, but if that's all you're doing, if you're just listing all of these things that they parallel, that's just trivial. Do you know what I mean by trivial?
Yeah.
If you say Harry Potter has a mentor, what does that really say? If you say he's in the ordinary world, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. It's just trivial. Doesn't really matter all that much. But you can make it matter. You can give it a lot more significance if you ask the question, why is Harry heroic? What makes him heroic? So what makes Harry heroic?
He saves a lot of people.
Yeah, but why does he save a lot of people?
Because he's a Gryffindor.
What
Gryffindors are awesome.
They are awesome.
Gryffindors are awesome.
What makes Gryffindor so awesome? What's their trait? What's their trait that really defines them?
Fearless and strong.
They're fearless and strong. Yeah, that's why their symbol is what?
What? Oh, a sword.
Well, sword. I mean, they have a lot of symbols, but what's their animal? Lion. Yeah, there you go. Which kind of fits with the Oz series because there is a lion character in that, but he's not fearless. He's the opposite. So if you say what really makes Harry brave, you can look at why. I would say if you really wanted to try to understand why he's so brave, maybe look at how he grew up, maybe who his parents were, even though he didn't really know his parents. You can say his parents were heroes. You could even look at the Dursleys and you could say, are the Dursleys heroes?
No,
they're terrible people.
Yeah, they're terrible people.
They're very, very cruel to him. So
except he's not cruel to what's his name? Who's his name?
Oh, Dudley?
Yeah, Dudley's not. They're not cruel to him.
Oh, the Dursleys are not cruel to Dudley. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the Dursleys end up being kind of complicated characters, but definitely at the beginning, they're horrible to Harry, and Dudley's horrible to Harry. But what from that would really explain why Harry's a heroic character? Why would you go from growing up like that? Why would you become a heroic character?
What do you mean?
Well, if you come from this really horrible background where the people raising you are really mean to you, how would you then become a brave person?
By punching them, and that was a long time to learn from you.
Well, I mean, Dudley does beat him up all the time, so does that help him become brave?
No.
Well, I mean, it could.
I just karate chopped my dad.
He
So.
just karate chopped my foot. But so he comes from this horrible background, and how does that lead to him being so brave? Because he had to deal with he had to be brave, he had to be strong, he had to deal with
people in the nose.
he had to overcome any sort of fear he had. And so how does he had to punch people in the nose. So how does that help him train to fight Voldemort? Dudley is certainly a villain, but how does that train him to fight these bigger villains? It sort of gives him this training to be brave and strong.
Because he can summon Cassetti with his wand.
He could, you're right. So, I mean, if you take that idea and you look at all the different parts, and you said, Harry's in the ordinary world, what about that makes him heroic? Well, he has this relatively ordinary bully in his life, and he has to overcome the bully, and that helps him become heroic. How about crossing the threshold? Or call to adventure. For him, a lot of the times with heroes, there's a refusal of the call. That means that a character is called to adventure, and the character refuses the call because they want to stay in the ordinary world. Does Harry want to stay in the ordinary world?
No.
No, he doesn't like the ordinary world at all, because the Dursleys are so mean to him. They're just bunny rabbits. That's right. There you go. That's Luna's Patronus.
Bunny rabbits attack! Attack the camera! Attack bunny rabbit!
This is a comedy. All of a sudden, yes, it is a comedy. Why are you barking at me? Hush, hush.
Use Ultra Spring.
Well, there you go. There you go. That makes a lot of sense. But let's see. So, like meeting the mentors. So, what does he learn from Dumbledore? What does Harry learn from Dumbledore? Hush, 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 hush. Secret just barks at me all the time.
For no reason.
That's right. So, what does he learn from Dumbledore? He learns a lot of stuff from Dumbledore. But what's something that he learns from Dumbledore? That's his mentor. Like in the Mirror of Erised, that scene.
That he says that it shows you your greatest
desire.
Yeah, your greatest desire.
So part of the plot of the end is that he's able to get the spoiler alert, I guess. He's able to get the Sorcerer's Stone because he doesn't want it. So that's something that Dumbledore can teach him is selflessness, because he lives in a very selfish environment with the Dursleys. So how does he learn selflessness? He's selfless to a degree. Is that Remus Lupin?
No.
Well, he's a wolf.
It's one of my
one of your projects.
Yeah, at school, but school's over for a few days.
Well, it's homeschooling. It's not over. It's homeschooling.
Wolf was very skinny.
Yeah, it's kind of a skinny wolf. So what does he learn from Dumbledore? You can list all kinds of stuff. But does Dumbledore help him become more heroic?
What?
Does Dumbledore help him become more heroic?
Yes.
There you go. So that's kind of the tricky thing about Ozma of Oz. You can go through all of those elements. But the main question, I think the dog is sitting on the book. You threw the book on the floor, and now my giant dog, I think, is sitting on the book.
Oh, really? What is that in your ear?
Oh, you have.
It's on your freaking bed. Why do you think I dropped it? I did not drop it.
And why would I drop it all the way over there?
I have no idea. So that's the
That.
tricky thing about Ozma of Oz, because the two main characters are Dorothy and Ozma. And Dorothy, so what happens to Dorothy at the beginning of the book?
And she gets
She gets shipwrecked.
yes.
I don't have to, this is a previous episode if you want to watch the previous episode. She gets shipwrecked. So is she a heroic character?
No. Yeah, kind of, yes, maybe. Maybe I don't know. What am I trying to say?
I don't know. Is she
Ow.
what
Yeah, I
it
heard
says that the storm didn't bother her.
So she is?
She's heroic. She's a very heroic character. So what about her? What about her interaction with Belina? What about that? Does that make her heroic?
No, not really.
Well, I mean, does that make her a good person? I mean,
No.
you can identify parts of her that are good in dealing with Belina. She's judgmental. I talked about this in one of the episodes. She's judgmental, and you have articles written about how in that scene she's more judgmental than in other parts of her history. But does she become understanding eventually about who Belina is? I would say yes. He has a mustache now, so I don't know if he's paying attention. Well, there you go. So, so what really makes her heroic? She feels fear, but she's able to overcome fear. She feels compassion. She judges characters, but she's able to overcome her judgment and accept characters for who they are. So she feels these certain things that are not heroic, but she's able to overcome these non-heroic things. Does that make sense as a hero?
Kind of.
So yeah, I mean, you have crossing a threshold. You don't really have the ordinary world, but you have sort of the moment where when Belina starts to talk, it sort of indicates that that's a shift from, there goes the pine cone. That's a shift from the ordinary world to the magical world. But it's not that much of a crossing the threshold moment, really. So you don't quite have all of these. You don't quite have as many of the 17 moments in Ozma of Oz, but also you don't have a character who's developing into a hero. You have a character who's already heroic. You have two main characters who are already heroic. So Ozma really developed into a hero in book 2. Dorothy, arguably, a lot of people in articles and essays will disagree with this, but I would argue Dorothy was always heroic. So you have two characters who are not really not really in need of developing into heroes, but they're already displaying heroic qualities. But one of the interesting things that does show up multiple times in this one is the Guardian of the Threshold.
The Guardian.
Threshold Guardian. Yeah, Threshold Guardian. Threshold Guardian and Approach of the Inmost Cave are probably two of the biggest ones in this one. Is that necessary?
No.
But anyway, so the Wheelers. We talked about the Wheelers before.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate
Wheelers
them.
are very creepy.
Uh,
Quit shaking the table, please. You're
Yeah.
earthquaking. You're the Wheelers.
ugh,
Ah!
I
But
don't
the
like
Wheelers, you don't want to know about the Wheelers.
I don't like them.
Well,
They're
there's a-
creepy.
They are creepy. They're just as creepy in the movie too.
There's a movie.
There's a movie. It's called Return to Oz. And the Wheelers are in it, and they're very creepy.
Bleh.
But Dorothy, you okay?
Yeah.
But Dorothy, we'll read. This is in chapter. Let's see. This is in chapter 3. Let's see. Chapter 3 and 4 is the one that I had on the docket to read. Letters in the Sand, TikTok Machine Man. Dorothy opens the dinner pail. Those 3 are kind of the TikTok the TikTok Wheelers chapters. But the Wheelers, they have wheels in their hands, So they seem really creepy. You're gonna do the puppet show.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, we'll do a different episode where we read chapter 3 and 4 if you want to. So they seem really creepy, but if you think about it, they have wheels on their hands. So are they really dangerous?
They can't hold cachettes.
They cannot hold cachettes. You are correct.
Or they can't hold muskets.
They cannot hold muskets. That's right. So what happens usually with Dorothy, I would say, or they cannot hold any kind of weapons. I would say with Dorothy, the thing that tends to happen with her is that she'll run across a villain. And this happens with Ozma too. I mean, this is something that's pretty consistent with. This is something that's...
Who's that bald guy?
That's TikTok. This is TikTok. He's a robot. TikTok, he's a robot. He's bashing the Wheelers. I think this happens in the Heads of Langwidere chapter. Langwidere is a very creepy character.
Langwidere?
She steals people's heads. The Wheelers and Langwidere are both very creepy characters. But in book 2, I was just going to... Ozma has this enemy named General Ginger who takes over the whole city. But by the end of the book, she doesn't punish Ginger. She forgives Ginger. So this is a pretty common sort of a pattern with villains for Dorothy and Ozma, is that they don't punish them. They usually just forgive them, or they recognize their flaws. This is not true of the Gnome King. The Gnome King is a very, very special sort of villain, and the most common villain in the whole series. The Gnome King comes along later.
Gnome King.
He's pretty creepy too. This book has a lot of creepy villains.
I'll say the Gnome King.
Yeah, he's a little silly looking, but he's also pretty creepy.
I'm prepared to be creeped out.
I think visually the Wheelers are probably the creepiest of them all. Let me see, but Gnome King is more silly looking than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of silly. It's kind of silly looking.
Honestly.
But he's still pretty creepy. You see? Sound you're making right now is pretty creepy.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's pretty creepy. I think this is the book with the creepiest villains total, with between the Wheelers, Langwidere, and the Gnome King. But anyway, I was going to tell you something about the Wheelers.
Wow, it's making creepy sounds.
I know, you're good at that. You're very good at it. Thank you. So what happens? So after the part that we looked at, what happens is they find a tree with dinner pails in it. Then they find TikTok the robot. Dinner pails, like these metal lunch boxes, basically. And then the Wheelers come along and scare Dorothy and Galena and TikTok. We'll come back and we'll read the whole thing in another video. So rattle-de-bang-bang went the dinner pail in every direction, and it made so much clatter bumping against the heads of the Wheelers that they were much more frightened than hurt and fled in great panic. So TikTok just easily beats them all up. So the Wheelers look creepy, but they're not very dangerous. This Wheeler had stumbled against another and fallen flat. Anyway, he's beating him up. Tell your people to go away, commanded the machine, commanded TikTok. The leader of the Wheelers hesitated to give this order, so TikTok shook him as a terrier dog does a rat, until the Wheeler's teeth rattled together with a noise like hailstones on a window pane. Ooh. Then, as soon as the creature could get his breath, it shouted to the others to roll away, which they immediately did. Now, said TikTok, you shall come with us and tell me what I want to know. You'll be sorry for treating me this way, whined the Wheeler. I'm a terribly fierce person. As for that, answered TikTok, I am only a machine and cannot feel sorrow or joy, no matter what happens, whether you are wrong to think yourself terrible or fierce. So TikTok, I talked about this in another video. TikTok is sort of the opposite of the Tin Man. The Tin Man thinks he can't feel sorrow, but wants to. TikTok knows he can't and doesn't really want to. Because no one else. Why so? Asked the Wheeler. Because no one else thinks as you do. Your wills make you helpless to injure anyone. For you have no fists and cannot scratch or even pull hair, nor have you any feet to kick with. All you can do is yell and shout, and that does not hurt anyone at all. The Wheeler burst into a flood of tears, to Dorothy's great surprise. Now I and my people are ruined forever, he sobbed, for you have discovered our secret. Being so helpless, our only hope is to make people afraid of us by pretending we are very fierce and terrible, and writing in the sand warnings to beware the Wheelers. Until now, we have frightened everyone, but since you have discovered our weakness, our enemies will fall upon us and make us very miserable and unhappy. Oh no, exclaimed Dorothy, who was sorry to see this beautifully dressed Wheeler so miserable. Tick-Tock will keep your secret, and so will Billina and I. Only you must promise not to try to frighten children anymore if they come near you. I won't indeed, I won't, promised the Wheeler, ceasing to cry and becoming more cheerful. I'm not really bad, you know, but we have to pretend to be terrible in order to prevent others from attacking us. That is not exactly true, said Tick-Tock, starting to walk toward the path through the forest and still holding fast to his prisoner, who rode slowly along beside him. You and your people are full of mischief and like to bother those who fear you, and you are often impudent and disagreeable too. But if you will try to cure those faults, I will not tell anyone how helpless you are. I'll try, of course, replied the Wheeler. So, what do you think of that? So that's a threshold guardian. So you can identify Wheeler as just one of the threshold guardians. There's a bunch of them. So what do you think of the Wheelers?
I still think they're creepy.
They're creepy. Yeah, they are. But so Dorothy and Tick-Tock recognize that they're helpless. So what about that scene makes Dorothy heroic?
She shoots him with a musket.
No. Wrong answer. There are no wrong answers in literary analysis, but there are answers that you can't support with evidence. So if you said Dorothy shoots them with a musket, you would have to have the evidence to prove that's true.
I have the visible musket right here.
You can see on line 3 what she's actually referring to is a musket.
Wait, what?
No, I'm kidding. But that's how literary analysis works. Is you can say anything you want to, but you have to have evidence to back it up. But anyway, so what's heroic about that? That's what Hero's Journey is there to do, is to show that somebody's heroic. So what quality of Dorothy makes her heroic in that moment?
She lets the Wheelers go.
Right. They frightened her. She recognized they're powerless. They said, now everybody's going to know we're powerless and come kill us. So we're really frightened. And so Dorothy, hearing that, how does she respond? She says, I'm not going to tell anybody, but what else did she say?
That she forgives them.
She forgives them and don't frighten kids. So is that heroic?
Yes,
That's heroic, yeah.
But she didn't say don't frighten adults.
Well, I mean, it's complicated. This is these books always make that kind of situation very complicated.
And also, by the way, I'll just shoot the Wheelers with the musket if they before they got close.
That's your creepy solution. They are creepy.
They're creepy. I would shoot them with a musket because I'd rather fight than run away.
Well, you're a Gryffindor.
So yeah.
I think Dorothy had the right idea.
True, but
I think that would work better than a musket.
Well, how am I supposed to know? I have more fire in my head than brain. Because I'm not a...
You have more what in your head?
I have more fire than brain in my head. I'm
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
You're very intelligent.
I'm just kidding.
Well, one thing you learn from the Scarecrow is intelligence is constantly developing. So there's no reason to belittle yourself and say you're not smart because your brains are constantly developing. But the Scarecrow thinks that he's really dumb, but that's kind of a silly thing to say because he was just born. He's very intelligent for a newborn. So another threshold guardian. I mean, so you can. Are you done? You're very heroic. So heroic. Another threshold guardian is the giant with the hammer.
Yes, the giant with the hammer.
So you can look at, I mean, if you talk about hero's journey, you can say here are all 17, or you could just identify like 2 or 3 or 4 and say, because the main point is not that it fulfills all these elements. The main point is what makes the character heroic. So you can look at just threshold guardians and you can say, what makes Dorothy heroic in that first threshold guardian scene with the Wheelers? She's compassionate and forgiving. And by the end of the book, and then this is kind of the tricky thing about the hero's journey, by the end of the book, is it's much more about a large number of characters. So what makes all of them heroic together? Cooperation. I don't know what you're doing right now.
I don't know.
Cooperation. This is an article I read with my class sometimes called Innocence is a Superpower by David Emerson. He talks about how what makes Dorothy heroic. I mean, it's a hero's journey analysis, but he says what makes Dorothy heroic, it's not physical strength, like the Gryffindor shaking the table right now is obsessed with showing as heroic.
I'm not.
I'm just picking. Calla. What are you doing? Are you done with the? Are you done with
just
the?
hanging back here.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm just saying, Dorothy's not a Gryffindor. I mean, she's kind of a Gryffindor. But she's not a Gryffindor in the sense that she fights. She's I don't know which house she would be. That's a good question.
Ow.
But what makes her heroic is she's understanding, she's compassionate, she listens to others, she understands, she empathizes, she cooperates. So qualities like that make her heroic. It's not that she takes up a sword. He's holding a sword right now. It's not that she takes up a sword and she bashes the Wheelers to pieces. That does not make her heroic. What makes her heroic is that she listens to the Wheelers. She understands what their problem is. She's not overly cruel in punishing them. You see what I'm saying? But the key is that what makes her heroic. But then you have another guardian with the threshold scene, the giant with the hammer. And that one, I'll just summarize that one.
I like in people watching for eyes.
You do from your perspective.
Yeah,
the liking and the people watching those are your eyes.
Yes.
Well, anyway, here I will make this the last point, and then on the next episode we'll read chapters 3 and 4. Is that it? Or 3? We might do 3, 4, and 5 because that's the Wheeler chapters. We'll come back to the Wheeler TikTok chapters. Okay, here's my last point. So David Emerson identifies this set of qualities as being Dorothy's heroic qualities. So whether or not she fulfills the hero's journey in these exact ways, that's still the main point, is she has these qualities that make her heroic. By the time you get to the second half of the book, please don't hurt the laptop. By the time you get to the second half of the book, there are a lot of characters. This is true in book 1 too. There are a lot of characters by the end of the book. And so they encounter another threshold guardian. This is Approach of the Inmost Cave. Approach of the Inmost Cave, where they're going to meet the Gnome King. The Gnome King has the royal family of Ev turn them into objects.
What?
Did we talk about this already? That's just one of those things I did on one of the videos. I don't think you were in it. But he turns the royal family of Ev into just little toys, basically. Isn't that awful of him?
Yes.
He's the worst villain. The least forgivable of all the villains in the Oz series. But he turns all these kids into just toys, and so Dorothy and Ozma and all their friends have to come save them.
Musket.
That's okay. And so the guardian at the cave is called the Giant with the Hammer. Did you see the picture? I don't know if you sat still for a second to see the picture. It's a cool picture. Oh, there's the Gnome King. That's Dorothy and Ozma, and that's the Gnome King. It's one of my favorite pictures. There's Dorothy and Ozma and the Gnome King standing up bravely to this horrible man.
Also a sword.
That is a sword.
Tip.
But it's Ozma and Dorothy saying, "Let the royal family of Ev go. You are a horrible, horrible man." It's like I have a sword in my face. But the giant with the hammer, you might hear heavy breathing. That's Siku, right beside the laptop.
What?
Well, Siku's breathing heavily right beside the laptop.
Yeah, so I just.
Here's the giant with the hammer. Giant with the hammer. He looks like the Iron Giant from the Iron Giant movie.
Yeah.
But you have the whole army going into the cave. You have this giant with a hammer bashing the ground. So, knowing what you know about Dorothy and all the Oz people, how would you expect them to tackle that issue? Would they shoot a cannonball at the giant with the hammer? Would they do it like Ready Player One and create a giant robot themselves? What would they do?
Use some confetti, duh.
Use a cachete, yes, sure. No, I mean the giant with the hammer.
Kidding.
Giant with the hammer doesn't have a brain or anything, so it's not like a character you can understand and empathize with. But what they do, I'll just tell you, we'll get to this part of the book eventually. They work together. Is that heroic to work together compassionately and kindly with other people? Is that heroic?
Yes.
I think so. Is that as heroic, if not more heroic, than just fighting all the time?
Yeah. Yes.
I think it is.
Me too.
Okay. So this is a lesson for you to keep in mind from this book. But also, if you're doing Hero's Journey on anything, if you're saying here's how the hero's journey plays out, it's not just that, you're identifying. Obviously, the giant with the hammer is a guardian of a threshold. There's multiple thresholds. Obviously, the giant with the hammer is a guardian of the threshold. Obviously, the wheelers are a guardian of the threshold. But just identifying that doesn't really say a whole lot. It's kind of just trivia. But if you said, here's how Dorothy tackles that, and this is what makes her heroic. I did not expect this episode to be a slapstick comedy. You okay?
Yes.
So this is my video time being taken up by slapstick comedy.
What's that?
Slapstick comedy means you do comedy by falling down. But anyway, I don't think that would happen in a classroom. I hope not. I have no idea. But anyway, okay. We'll wrap it up for today. Say goodnight.
Bye.
All right. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.